It's so nice to see you all. So this is my very first live stream, and I don't know how this is going to work, but let's just see. Let's see how we can make this work. So for those of you joining live, you know where you're from. I'm super curious to know where you're tuning in from. So what is this live stream going to be all about? So we're going to make animated stickers. I've got a little example here on the screen that you can already see. So I've also made a little agenda. So I want to show you what we're going to do today together. And here is the agenda. So what I want to do is show you the animation basics first. Really, what does animation mean? How does this actually work? Then we're going to sketch some ideas of animations that we want to make. And then we're going to show you just a simple animation and then a more complex animation. And then at the end, I also want to show you how you can use the stickers that we're going to make on Instagram as well. So we're going to do some animation basics. And I always like to explain this in a way that how Flipbook works. If you remember the little flip books, you can sort of flip through and then you can see each page. So that's very similar how animations work in Procreate as well. I just want to show you one of the animations I've made that as a good example. So this is a very simple animation I'm going to play, and all it does, it just wiggles that lattice a little bit. So now if we're going to have a look at the layers panel, you'll see that all this is actually 3 layers. And then what Procreate does, it just flips through the different layers one by one. And that's pretty much how it works. So it's really a matter of animating layers that you have in Procreate. And you also see here that we've got this helper here. This is an animation helper that's been introduced with Procreate 5. And I think that's really all you need to know to start with. So I think we're going to jump right in. And I'm going to explain how everything works a little bit later in the live stream as well. So it'll just build up step by step. So hopefully you'll be able to follow along. All right, so now we're going to go back to the gallery and we're going to do some sketching to start with. And I always like doing this first. So I've just made a few different ideas of stickers that I would like to make. So there's a mixture of lettering and then some little doodles as well. And so that's what I usually do. I just try it out to see what I feel like, you know, what type of thing or sticker I want to make. There's some more, and then I have also tried some different brushes. I always like playing with my brushes to see what I can do there as well. And then there is some more here. And so I thought to start with, we could maybe do like a little chill animation. That's always useful to have, I think. So let's do that. So we're going to go back to the gallery. And so we're going to start with a new canvas. And the trouble you'll find with animations is that you're going to run out of layers reasonably quickly, because the more advanced your animation is, the more layers you will need, but the more layers you use, the smoother the animation will be as well. But for what we're going to do here for the basics and basic animations, it's probably not too much of a problem. So we're going to start with a square canvas that's 2048 by 2048 pixels. That's good to start with. And that gives us a nice amount of layers. Depending on which iPad you have, you can check how many layers this will give you. If you go to canvas information here and then layers, you'll see that we have 156 layers available, which is plenty for what we are going to do. And depending on your iPad, you might have a little bit less, but I think this is a good setting to start with. All right, and then we're just going to write whatever the sticker is going to have. So I'm going to choose black and then choose your favorite lettering brush. And my favorite lettering brush is this one called Hazelnut Cream. It's part of my dessert series. And the reason why I called it Hazelnut Cream is because I love Nutella so much. And I wasn't sure whether or not that word is trademarked. So I called it Hazelnut Cream instead. But I love this brush a lot. So now we're just going to write the word chill here. Like this, and then we can make it a little bit cute and add some little marks like this. That's the first layer done. And then of course, if you're not happy with what this looks like, you can always change it and you know, write it again. But I actually like these animations to not be perfect. They can be, you know, really have that handwritten look and feel. So that's all good. All right, so now the next thing we need to do is activate the animation assistant, and you can find that in the actions menu under canvas, and you see here there's animation assist. So you're going to turn this on, and then you'll see here at the bottom how we've got this helper bar turning up here. And at the moment it doesn't have much because we only have one layer. But now what we can do here is we can add a frame. And this is the same. So you can tap here, and this is just going to create an empty frame. And what this is actually a layer. So now if you open up the layers panel, you see here how it's got a new layer that's called frame 2. And you'll also notice, because we've got this new layer here now, that previous layer has been grayed out a little bit. So this is super handy. So you can sort of keep track of how the animation works. And we have some settings here as well, which I want to show you quickly. So there's a few different settings, and I'm going to show these later a little bit as well. But the most important one to start with is the onion skin opacity. And the onion skin is sort of the layers that we are going to create for our animation. And you can change the opacity. So we're going to just turn this down a little bit. I don't like this to be too transparent because then it sort of interferes with the next layers that I'm creating. So always remember that you can change this, and then you know, the layer below is not so visible. And so now we can just write this again over the top, and you don't have to follow it 100%. So the appeal of this sort of style is that it's going to wiggle a little bit, and it's going to look really nicely handmade. So you just want to roughly trace that letters you already have, but not too closely, like this. Okay, so now we actually have made our first animation already. So now we can press play, and now you can see it sort of starts wiggling a little bit. And of course, this is now a bit sort of out of whack, so we can adjust this a little bit. So the first thing we want to do is change that frames per second. So now this one changes this 15 times per second, and this is too much. So I recommend probably go to about 5. I usually put it on 5, and then it's sort of, you know, it's a bit more chill. We don't want this to be too animated. So this looks pretty good. You can even sort of turn it down, maybe one more to make it a bit more chill. So this looks pretty chill now. So this is cool. All right, and then we're going to go pause. And now we can add another frame. And then we can write this again. So you want to do this a few times. I recommend that you do it at least 3 times, so it doesn't just look like it's flipping backwards and forwards, but it sort of creates a little bit of a smoother animation. I'm going to go write this again. And now let's try it out. This is quite chill now, so maybe we can change the frames per second. So this is pretty cute. So now, what I don't like is the angle. So now we're going to change this. I'm going to pause it. And now if you want to change all these layers at once, what you can do is opening up the layers panel, and then you can highlight all the layers. And then with the arrow tool, now we can change this a little bit and maybe put it in the center. So now this looks pretty cool. All right, so now the next thing we want to do is, if you want to use this for Instagram, for example, it's super handy to have a transparent background, and we can of course create a transparent background by turning the background layer off like this, and you can see now that's all see-through. But then sometimes what happens if you put this in Instagram on quite a busy picture or something that might be quite dark, it's not so visible. So now what we want to do is create sort of a die cut sticker around it. All right, so now we're going to create a new layer, and this layer is going to be at the bottom, just above the background. And then I'm going to make this white just to keep it simple. Of course, you can use any color you like for this. And then now we're going to just create this little sort of die cut sticker like this, so it really looks like a sticker. Right, it's just like this, and then you can fill this shape. Just make sure that you've closed all the lines so it doesn't fill the whole layer. Can we even this out a little bit more? Okay, and now you see that nothing else is visible. So What we need to do now is mark this as that background layer, and then what that means is this one will stay static, and then only the frames above will animate. So we're going to go in our animation timeline here and tap on that thumbnail with the white background here, and so mark this as background. And now you can see how all the layers above will become visible. And so now if we play this again, we have the background and then we have the animation on top. So now what we're going to do is export this, and we have a few different options here. So we're going to go on share. And so you can see how it says share layers. So there's a different variety of how you can export your animation, and I recommend that you choose animated GIF. This is that format that's the most widely supported. There's also other option, animated PNG, which supports transparency and gives you a high resolution, but it doesn't work in most applications, unfortunately. So it's not that widely supported. So I recommend that you choose animated GIF. And then you can see here there's this export dialog coming up, and pretty much you can leave this as the default. I recommend that you choose max resolution. You can also do web ready, but that sort of really shrinks it down and then makes it look really pixelated. So it's not so nice, but it's a really small file size. You can see here this is only 210 kilobytes. And then the max resolution is 3.8 megabytes. So that really shrinks it down, but it just doesn't look as nice. And if you want to use it on Instagram or send it to your friends through iMessage or WhatsApp, then definitely leaving the max resolution is what you want. So now we're going to go export and then save image. And now that's going to save it to your Photos app. All right, so we're going to use that later, but now what I want to do is show you a little bit more complicated animation. And so I've made one before just to test it out, but so what I want to show you how to do is this little happy birthday animation. And I think this is quite cute because it sparkles a little bit, and it's, you know, it's something handmade that you can send to your friends when it's their birthday. Rather than just saying happy birthday, you can send them this little animation. So I'm going to show you how I've made this as well. This is a little bit more complicated, and you need to plan ahead a little bit for making this. Otherwise, it might be a little bit frustrating. So now we're going to create a new canvas again. We're going to choose that square canvas again. And in the first step, what we're going to do is just write happy birthday. So choose your favorite brush again. And let's see, I'm just going to write this here. And then I recommend that you write the second word on a new layer. We're going to merge the layers later, but you'll see it's much easier to rearrange the words if you write them on separate layers. So I'm going to do birthday here. It's not too bad. So now we can rearrange this on the page. Oops. And then this one as well. All right, so this looks pretty cute. So now, depending on how you want to animate this, you can decide to merge the layers now, which I'm going to do. But you might also want to leave them separate, especially if you want to sort of make it wiggle a little bit. It might be handier having them on separate layers, but I'm going to merge them now. So now we're going to bring in a golden background. So I've got this gold here. So now what we're going to do is create a clipping mask. So you tap on the layer and then you create clipping mask. And there we have our golden happy birthday. So now we also want to add some stars for that as well. So we're going to create a new layer. And then I want to make white stars. And so now you can, you know, draw the stars yourself if you like, or you can use a brush for this. I've got a number of shape brushes that I like to use, and they have a little star here. So now we're going to add some stars just on top of your lettering. Make some bigger ones. maybe one bigger. All right, so this looks pretty good now. So now, in order to see those stars, it might actually be helpful to change the background color and not make it white. So let's make this orange for now, so we can see it a little bit. And now I can see the gold. So let's see what I'll make it purple. Purple's beautiful. All right, so this is good. So now we want to animate this. So we're going to turn on our animation assist again. And now if we start animating this, you'll see that this looks really weird. So it's because all these different things are on different layers and they animate all separately. So now what we need to do is actually group this. So we can group these layers like this and create a group. And so now every group animates separately, and this is an important concept for animation because it means you can keep your layers separate but still animate them all at once. So now we're going to duplicate this group. You could also tap add frame, but I actually want to duplicate the whole group. So we're going to do that. And so now we have 2 frames that animate. So now we can change the top layer. So the first thing we want to do is slightly move our clipping mask layer. So we can ever so slightly move this. So this gives it the sort of an illusion of this moving around, which is probably going to look quite cool actually. And then we're also going to move the stars. So now here, what you can do is, you know, just flip them horizontal so they're in a different place, and then you can maybe rotate it, and now they're in a different place. And now we can test this out. So this already starting to work. So now we are going to turn down the frames per second, make it a bit more chill. All right, so this looks better. Okay, so now we're going to add some more layers, exactly the same. So now instead of opening the layers panel and then duplicating this group, what you can do as well is long press on add frame. If you just tap on it, it'll create a new empty layer, but if you long press on it, it'll duplicate the previous frame, which is super handy. But we need to actually open up the layers panel anyway, because we want to sort of change these ones around a little bit. So now with the gold foil, what we're going to do here is we're going to flip it vertical, and then with the stars, we're going to flip those vertical as well, and then turn them around. And now you can see they don't really match the lettering that well. So now what we can do is rearrange them manually. And you'll also see now what I've explained in the first animation, how the onion skin sort of leaves these marks. So you can ever so slightly see the star. So it's not quite clear which star is on the current layer and which one's not. But this is why we have the settings here. So we can now turn down the opacity. And so now it's much easier to see which stars you're working with currently. You can also decrease that number of onion frames that are visible. This is handy if you have lots and lots of layers, but because if you have lots of frames, but we don't have that many, so it doesn't really make too much of a difference. But I usually set this to 3, but because we only have 3, it doesn't really matter so much. All right, so now we can see the stars, and so now we can rearrange them a little bit. So I just grab them and then move them around on top of my letters like this. And now let's see what this looks like. So now another thing we want to do is clip that stars to our text as well. So we're going to do that, clipping mask, and then here as well. And so now they're not going outside the letters. So if we turn this off, and then we go clipping mask here as well. And you can see now how we've got this really cool happy birthday animation. So now, of course, you can add a lot more layers to this. I recommend that you probably create about 5 or 6, but this is exactly the same process. So all you do is duplicate the layer and then rearrange the stars and the background. And then, do that as many times as you like until you're happy with your animation. Of course, we want to use those. We want to put those on Instagram. So now I'm going to export this as well, and share, animated GIF, and you get a little preview here. and then export. All right, so now we are going on Instagram. So there's two ways of how you can do this. You can either start with the story already, or you can add the sticker later, but this makes it a little bit easier. So now what I want to do actually is find a picture that we can post here. So let's see what kind of pictures I have. I've got this really cool picture here of my son's dog, Sirius. He's so cute. So I feel like he's really chilling out. So adding that chill sticker to this photo is probably a good idea. So now we are going back to the photos, and now let's select our chill image. So you tap on it, and then here in the share button, you go copy photo. So now this has copied it into the clipboard, and then when you go back to Instagram, you'll see how it comes up here automatically, which is super cool. So now we can, oh, I've missed it. But this is actually a good example because it doesn't matter if you miss it, because what you can do as well is you tap on the text button and then you can paste it. And so it comes in like this as well. And then we can put this here. Or shall we put it there? What do you think? I think this is cute. But you know, you'll see the reason why we've got that white background. If it didn't have the white background, it wouldn't be visible on the carpet here. So I think this is cool. So now we can post it. Now, if you wanted to find out more about animations and sort of, learn a little bit more, I'm going to do some shameless promotion now. I've actually got the whole course where I'm showing all the Procreate 5 features, including animations, and we're going to make a lot more complicated animations there as well. So if you wanted to check that out, you can find that on my website. Here at the top, there's a link to the ultimate guide to Procreate 5. You click on that. I've made this course together with my friend Amanda Arneal. So you click on that, and then you can see all the lessons it has and everything we are teaching you as part of the course. All right. Thank you so much for watching. I had a lot of fun doing this. I hope you enjoyed this as well. Maybe do another one of these if you would like me to do that. Absolutely. Also request topics if you like. Also for videos, if there's anything that you would like me to show you, I'm more than happy to make more videos as well. Enjoy your weekend, and I will see you next time.